what I take from your work is that people with disability or people who've managed to deal with any form of discrimination and succeed in spite of it, what they've had to do is innovate in the system. They've had to break past the limitations of that paradox. And so as a kind of object lesson in how to evolve, how to progress, how to innovate, there's an amazing source of opportunity there. But often we don't really see it like that. We see that as a sort of, they're just remarkable people with qualities that are, and they are, but also they've done something practical. They've used tools in a different way. They've got a different mindset. So I'm really interested where you have seen organizations benefit from actually adopting some of that, and have actually created some progression, some innovation for themselves to do
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
Where have you seen this?
one of the great examples I think is Microsoft. Microsoft, I mean, if you sort of look at it, Satya Nadella, the CEO, his son Zane, had a disability, and so for him, the idea of accessibility had to become part of the DNA of the entire organization. And throughout, whether it be from the gaming side to software side to even hardware. I mean, they have an entire accessibility lab out in California now, which they've developed and are cultivating as part of their business. It's their business model. This isn't something where it's like, oh, this is an add-on. Part of the thing with the diversity, equity, and inclusion and accessibility, it's always been sort of an add-on. His philosophy is absolutely not. This is part of the core values of our business. So when you look at something like that, for example, I mean, another company which comes to mind, it's even more recent, which actually happened after the 33rd anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, which was this past year, which was in July. Walmart came and said, well, we're going to provide for our customers a central site for, it's called Walmart Adaptive. So it's everything from clothing to, I mean, whatever they sell, where they curate adaptive products and they partner with entrepreneurs who are in the space. And this is a space that's growing exponentially. I mean, just in the adaptive clothing market, for example, Vogue Business said, well, this is going to be about a $700 billion industry by 2026. And in part due, yeah, yes, an aging population. Because you have to think about, okay, this isn't about, I think that what we always think about accessibility, it's well sanitary. Um, you and I are both wearing eyewear. Well, all three of us, actually, if I look at it, yep, that is an adaptive product. And if you look at eyewear as a business and say, wait a minute, or even if somebody is wearing, contact lenses, that's an adaptive product, but we don't think about it in those terms. Well, it infuses design, it infuses a level of aesthetic that changes the nature of how we look at disability from the outset. And a lot of the problem has been, I mean, if you sort of look at it historically, there were the ugly laws of the 18th and 19th century, which were taking place both in the UK and the US. I mean, and predominantly. And there were other European countries that adopted it, but it was very much part of the UK and the US experience, where they would separate out persons who looked different or wasn't part of the norm, whatever the norm was at the time. And that's where all of these institutions were developed to house and separate those with disabilities, change the very perception of how we see that. Now that's been done away with for the most part. I mean, there's still some that exist, but it's been outlawed both in the UK and and the United States. And we're looking at living in place and finding community organizations. That in itself is shaping mindset. I think one of the great things that's happening now is the idea of social media is changing the entire conversation, because you have leaders that are coming out of the community, whether it's millennials or Gen Z, and saying, well, wait, we want to take back this. We want to create, we're young entrepreneurs who want to create products and services, but we want to create a difference in terms of how we see ourselves. And one of the things that's always important is this is a community that anybody can join. And it actually is the most inclusive, because you will join it. If you're lucky enough to age, as I said before, you're either a full-fledged member or you're a visitor.